of what might have been this season.
Yeah, I think that would be a good way to sum it up. Unfortunately, it was put it on the front row earlier on in the season many times and been very, very fast, but just hasn't quite come together for the Italian driver. We know how fast he is in a single seater, but yes, a story of what could have been. I think there's a lot of drivers up and down the grid who will have that same feeling, and they'll be hoping to come back very soon in the iRacing Grand Prix World Championship and try and set the score straight. But they will, however, play a very important role, I feel, in the outcome of this championship still.
I still think they do as well, and you are absolutely right there. But what a charge it has been for that driver just behind. As you can see, some work as they drive into the hairpin. A look on the outside line from Costantini, not making it happen. But Peter Berryman in the 50, Kenneth, has been really impressive. It's not been by victories he's been impressive, but by sheer consistency. He's always got himself there. A little bit of a look there from Mandanark into Spoon. Not going to happen, but Berryman just has that grit and ability to never say die when it comes to a race, and he always finds a way to get something happening. And he's got a run right now against Mandanark. He's going to be looking at it here in towards that next section, as to Costantini trying to go to the outside. That's not going to work. He'll have to go to the outside again. He's going to get himself covered. He might get himself boxed in. Lemonette just taking enough room here, and Costantini powers around the outside. What a move that is.
Oh, what a move indeed by the driver of the 66, and he makes his way up to third right now in the running order, Jake. But you were talking about Peter Berryman, and the largest reason why he's even in the lead in the championship is because of that consistency. Yes, he does not have as much wins as Martin van Loozenhoorn does. He only has 2. Martin van Loozenhoorn has a total of 5, but his finishes overall, Jake, have been just impressive over this part of the campaign, that he's been able to just keep himself steady. And when you have a bad race out of MVL, then you take advantage, and that's exactly what Berryman did. And now that's why he's 9 points ahead in terms of the championship, with a possible opportunity to take it all away in the final 2 races. What he has to do here, though, Jake, is move past these cars. Martin van Loozenhoorn is leading the race, and he's going to be dropping a lot of points if he stays in 6th, so he's going to have to make these moves in the first stint as well.
Absolutely he is, and you know the gap already. He's 6.5 seconds off the race lead now, 7.5 seconds off of the race lead, so it definitely does show at this point in time. This is Ben Fuller, the Indiana native, making his charge, and he's right on the back of this train, and you could argue he's in a really nice position for positioning himself. He's got Toth just behind him. That's not too much of a threat for him, but his job is just to make sure here in this race, Peter, that nobody gets to Hart and nobody gets to Berryman as they wait for their opportunities to arise.
Yeah, we've seen Ben Fuller definitely being a good team player so far this season. Very admirable indeed. So we've got our first takers in pit lane. Valentin Mandanark, I think, now. Who's that coming down pit lane? I think it was Mandanark.
Yeah.
Possibly not. Yes, it was.
It was, and Mandanark, of course, does have the purple check mark against his name. He does have the fastest lap, so he is the first taker in the number 46 machine to dive in and make a pit stop. Now, this will start the chain reaction here, because he's going to try and undercut here, Kenneth, to try and get himself ahead and in the grass and in all sorts of trouble there going through. I think that was Michele Costantini.
It was, Jake. He went off. Peter, go ahead.
No, he's saying that's exactly the same place he had a moment 4 or 5 laps ago. So, big. Now, this is what's going to happen, I think, isn't it, Kenneth? Where we'll get the cars getting very loose at this stage of the stint. Looks a handful.
Yeah, it definitely is. And when the tires start to wear out, I've seen many accounts from drivers over the course of the season that when you're on these hards and when the tires start to fall, that car gets insanely hard to drive. It's going to start to kick out the rear end in any sort of corner. Doesn't matter whether you're full throttle, whether you're half throttle, whether you're on the brakes, the car just becomes increasingly hard to drive. And that's where these guys now, Jake, are going to have to start looking into the pit strategy, because Valentin Mandanark, he went down pit road at the very opening of the pit window. 14 to 16 laps, so sooner than later we should see the leaders come down and have themselves a fair play of strategy. Maybe they all come in together, and indeed they are.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers in a row, and they're all going to jump up against the line as they all jump in. So you got Fuller in there, Hart is in there, Berryman is in, Toth is in, and Costantini. So all of the Apex SDK cars said we are going in at the same time. That leaves Lemonette out on his own, with Van Loozenhoorn and Ugolotti both left to stop here in the race lead. And Kenneth, you've had a look at that with the Force Dynamics race analysis.
We definitely do, and we'll take a look just how complex this race is going to be over the course of today's race. Again, just like I mentioned, it's a total of 14 to 16 laps on a full stint of fuel. So you should expect right now, like we've seen, drivers coming down and drivers being in the right sweet spot for that first stint. The hard tires are going to last about 15 or so laps around this mark where they'll start to really fall off and they will be really tough to drive on, like we've seen a couple of drivers get very loose. Pit delta going to be an average loss of 31.5 seconds, so these drivers not going to necessarily worry about that too frequently, but it is going to be a point if drivers make some mistakes on that coveted pit lane here at Suzuka, and that's exactly how it is going to matter here over the course of 40 laps.
Martin van Loozenhold's indicating he wants to pit in on this lap to Matteo Ugolotti, and for all those who are involved, leading duo then are going to dive down into the pits. It's a very, very tricky commitment cone as well because you're downhill all the way and you got to get it stopped. And then you got this transit speed of just 60 kilometers an hour as they go through. Lemonek also into the pits. So too Cortese, Pinsker and Keitert all diving in. Mandanark has got himself ahead of the entirety of the train that he was racing against, so he's got the stop perfectly sorted. But as they drive through towards this beautiful, beautiful Casio triangle, once again, it's going to be about positioning, where you want to be, how aggressive do you want to be, and Mandanark here will get himself going. The leaders have got themselves away right now here, Peter. They're going to be back out and away again, 1 and 2, but Lemonek here, now this is the key as they come out. Lemonek is going to be right on the back of everyone.
And that is the undercut effect there as well, because as soon as we saw Mandernack come out in front of everybody, that looked like the undercut was the way to go. And of course that meant the opposite effect. Lemonek on the overcut has been really badly punished there as well. Has lost 4 or 5 cars in track position. So game on here in the penultimate round of the Force Dynamics iRacing World Championship. Oh, really tense stuff, but critically for Van Loozenhoord, that's pit stop sequence has gone exactly to plan, and he can just knuckle down and get his head down again.
Here is Valentin Mandanark in 3rd position. Valentin has been driving fantastically, used that early pit stop to give himself track position, but you'd have to say Costantini, Berryman, half full up. Those 4 behind you is always going to be a challenge, and he's got to really pace himself here, Kenneth, over the course of this second stint. He knows there's a podium on the line if he can manage it, and this is all about management at this point in time. How can you manage that gap? As you look behind, here comes Michele to the inside, trying to search for it at 130R, and powers his way through, took the line away.
It is tough, though, for Mandanark here, Jake, just because of these long straights. All the drivers getting so much draft, and that's what allows Michele Costantini and now what could be Peter Berryman and Johan Hart to get the advantage here, maybe down the front straightaway in the entrance to turn 1 and take advantage of that 46. But it was by design here, Jake, for Mandanark to come down pit road as he wiggles a bit into turn 1. So they wanted to have this short stop strategy on play, and if they can get this track position and at least maintain it for now, then it'll be very good news for them. Only question is, when are they coming down the next time?
Yeah, that is definitely key, and it's something that we say, teamwork does make the dream work in this sort of race, and now you are starting to see it here, Peter, as Mandanark is intensely having to defend against Peter Berryman at this point in time. But not only that, the fact that Ben Fuller has taken Przemysław Lemonek out of that group fight, so they have pretty much isolated the race into miniature battles.
Yeah, and watch Michele Costantini now. It's hammer time for the Italian in the number 66 car. Of course, Michele Costantini is the only driver out with of our 2 championship contenders, Peter Berryman and Martin van Loozenhoord, to win a race. Remember, he won the 2nd race back at Spa. And, well, I watch for the pace now from the number 66 car, because I think he's got an edge here, and he really is bolting away from Valentin Mandanark at quite an alarming rate. And Mandanark appears to be struggling a lot here as both Hart and Berryman just blow by him. Something's not right there.
Run a little bit deep there, and that's going to allow then on that outside to get a better drive. Johan Hart, who moves up into 5th position. That's just a tyre difference, an extra lap on the tyres and a lack of confidence. Costantini takes the purple check mark. Look at that. A switch either way to try and take that move away from Mandanark. Doesn't quite. manage to make that happen. So this is bringing Ben Fuller back into play. They'll probably think that there is a bit of vulnerability from Mandenaar, who's trying to adjust now to driving in the dirty air and getting himself back situated to where he needs to be. He's just got to be alert right now, because they are going to be trying to drive quickly to get themselves back to Ugolotti and Van Loozenhoorn at the front. But still, Mandenaar there in 5th place knows that he's looking behind rather than in front, and that, Kenneth, is the last thing you want to do as a driver.
It definitely is, and on older tires, there's really not much you can do. You can try and hold up as much as possible, but when they've got the extra grip, when they've got the draft on you, it's just so tough to really keep yourself there, and you don't want to block either in these cars. These cars don't have fenders. They're open-wheeled machines, so you don't want to make contact at all. You can make a block, but you have to be very, very careful with it. And now with Mandenaar, he's just really on his tiptoes around this entire pack. As now, here comes Ben Fuller. Big switch. Almost contact. Was about to make the pass, but not going to make it this time. He's going to give the shove.
He did it once, he did it twice, and on the brakes, Mandenaar will be able to hold. So Fuller's getting very, very feisty as he tries to figure out a way forward. And again, Mandenaar goes very low. That's going to force Fuller then to the outside line as he tries to take this place away, and it's allowing those two to break. He gets almost all the way around, and you know what? Mandenaar's just going to shove the car down in. On the inside, there's contact. Fuller goes around, then on the outside of turn number 1, the first corner, and just like that, Fuller's race is up in smoke, Peter.
Oh dear. Controversy again reigns here in the Force Dynamics iRacing World Championship. Wowee, that was close. As we look at James Pinsker on screen with another very jazzy paint scheme, almost BAR special there. I noticed he got his hair cut as well. Very stylish.
Yep, he certainly did then as we got ourselves going. Let's take a replay then, see exactly how that one came into play, and this is the crucial fact. So you can see Mandenaar is desperately trying to defend. He doesn't want to lose any more ground than he has to. They go into one. It looks like the move's complete, but Mandenaar throws it back up the inside, and it's just the simple fact here, Kenneth, that he just doesn't have enough grip to hold the line that he needs to. Goes out into Ben Fuller, who I don't think could have given any more space out there on track.
Yeah, there's no grip at all. It's starting to fall off on Valentin Mandenaar's machine, but there's also a lack of space there. There's just grass there, so you want to keep yourself on track, but there's only so much space you can occupy with these Dallara Arrow ones going side by side. So unfortunately, Mandenaar and Fuller have to deal with the consequences. Fuller getting the worst of it, and Mandenaar, we don't know how much damage is diagnosed on that machine, so we'll just have to see as it moves forward. But watch everything swirl around from the top two, Jake. It's still Van Loozenhoorn and Ugolotti at the front. I think they're comfortable up here.
I think they are as well. It's been Van Loozenhoorn leading the majority of the laps. He has led the most laps this season, and you've got there Matteo Ugolotti in second. Now, Matteo here is playing a very shrewd game. He doesn't have to do anything out of the ordinary here at this point, challenge out there at this point in time. So that is always going to be something you see. A little bit of comfort going along right now, and that comfort can go to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you join up at iRacing.com today and get yourself 25% off renewals and 50% off of brand new memberships, as it's our iRacing Black Friday sale. Visit iRacing.com/Black Friday to see your deal today. But, Peter, the key here for Ugolotti is that it has been an incredibly unremarkable race so far for him in second. He's been happy to be patient, happy to wait, and he's going to wait for one chance, one opportunity, and if he can take it, he'll be good. The one thing he's worried about, though, Michele Costantini, who will be desperately trying to chase that gap down from behind.
And I think Matteo Ugolotti might not be the only person worried about Michele Costantini, because he's gone quicker than our leader, Van Loozenhoorn. 3 laps running as they come over the line. It could well be 4 laps running. Indeed, it is. So the gap now down to 4.4 seconds between the leader and Michele Costantini as well. In fact, it's coming down even hotter now. Yes, it is. 4.4 seconds. Right the first time. So, yes, Michele Costantini is the man on the charge, and he's really using that new tyre to full effect.
He certainly is at this point in time. Mandenaar then now is back in the battle with Lemonek and Toth out there on circuit. 6th, 7th and 8th positions out there on track and doing as much as possible here to bring things going. But let's take a look then at the championship as it looks. It is 4 points in favor of Martin van Loosenoord, 170 to 166. But the key here will be that Hath, I think, is doing a lot of donkey work at this time, Kenneth, to bring himself back into play. And you've also got a little bit of a concern here as you've been listening in on Martin van Loosenoord.
Indeed, I have Martin van Loosenoord, the race leader, who you see right there, could be leading the points after this race if the results hold. But out of Martin van Loosenoord's camp, talking with his spotter and crew chief, Graham Carroll, he said, what about Michele Costantini's last lap? Mentioned the lap, and van Loosenoord said, I don't think I'm going to make it. Very concerned about Costantini's pace, but Carroll just reminded him and assured him that it's all good. It's in your head. Just keep going. And for right now, just trying to calm van Loosenoord on his trek to the front as, again, they continue to fall through in lap time to the driver's third on back.
Exactly. That can always be a huge concern. What are other drivers around you doing as through one they go again? Mandenaar, Lemonek and Toth all fighting 6th, 7th and 8th positions. They've got 6 seconds back now to Ben Fuller at this point in time. So that is their focus. There's Peter Berryman, by the way. Again, constantly calm. He knows he's in 5th position, but it's not bothering him at this point in time. This is almost like as if everything right now, Peter, is going to plan for him as he gets a little kick of correction coming out of Degner 2.
And this is how Peter Berman has been so impressive throughout this season. You know, he's just does not let the stress get to him, or certainly doesn't show it anyway. He's so calm when things are going well, and indeed when they're going, in some cases, they've gone very badly for him. And he's always been able to maximise each situation, and that is what's made him such a tough championship rival. Don't forget that Martin van Loosenoord, he's won 5 races. Peter Berman's only won 2, but Berman's leading the championship. That tells a story in itself.
It certainly does. There's Johan Hath just in front of him in 4th position. Had to start today at the back of the field. Had a little bit of an issue, a bit of contact with Yard Tyen in the early stages. Fortunate enough, there was no damage to the front wing, and he's just continued on his business, got himself moving forward. He's the biggest mover in the field. He's up 15 spots right now, and he is trying very hard, you'd say, at this point in time, Kenneth, to pull Berryman to Michele Costantini as they chase the leading duo right now, who are on screen, number 69, Martin van Loosenoord, and number 98, Matteo Ugolotti. Ugolotti's a really interesting one as well right now, because he's in the position, Kenneth, where, you know, the last time he was in a position to fight for the victory was all the way back in Interlagos.
It was, and Ugolotti, it's been a while since he's been able to get close to victory lane. I can also recall where Ugolotti tried to make a move at Silverstone for a podium and then spun on the way to the inside after contact was made, and he was able to hold on for top 5. But for Ugolotti, I think the main theme of his season so far hasn't been of dominance, but it's been spoiler. He's been between the top teams sort of all season long. We talk about the Apex Racing team, the SDK Gaming team, the Predator RAG affiliation, but then you just have Ugolotti, the Italian for TQ Engineering, just kind of sprinkling himself in there with raw pace. It's not a fluke at all that he's been up at the front of the field battling with the best. He's got very much a lot of pace in that setup and with that team, and it's no slouch here for Ugolotti as he continues to reel in the race leader.
Yeah, he reels them in, and he's very happy to sit up as I think Martin van Loosenoord ever so slightly on that run in towards Casio Triangle, Peter, is just starting to lift a little bit. It's quite interesting how much they're trying to fuel save to try and see if they can take a little bit, a 0.1 of a litre out of the tank when it comes to the pit stop.
Yeah, and of course, this is their final pit stop coming out. And remember what happened when Valentin Mandernack pitted a lap earlier than everyone else. Well, he gained 4 or 5 cars worth of track positions. He really leapfrogged the field. Previshav Lemonek, who was the later to...
Yeah, he certainly was, and he pretty much showed just how amazing he was at this point in time. But now you've got to give yourself a little bit of room as you go up there and battle. And let's talk about why drivers are racing and what they get for each race, because this is about what you can manage. And manage at the moment here is money. $10,000 if you pick up the championship, $4,000 for second, $2,000 for third. The payouts go to 10th place. But each race here, Kenneth, has a $300 bounty, and that's why we call Martin van Loosenoord Money, because he has been bounty hunting all race long.
He definitely has, and over the course of the season, 5 wins and maybe some more if he can rack up in the final 2 for the championship. then you could definitely call him money. He is balling in that case, but there's so much on the line, and we've talked about it over the season. The emotions from these drivers, the frustrations, the elations on podiums, on finishing position. There is so much to go into this type of series at the highest level, and with the money on the line, that only just makes things higher in terms of the stakes for these guys. They want to put it all on the line for not only the money, the reputation, the sort of the legacy that they can carry in their sim racing career, and so much more in a series like this in its debut season, by the way.
Absolutely, and we're seeing the front two have themselves an incredible battle right now, but there is James J. Pinsker in what is the Lemon Eck car out there at this point in time. There's a little lemon there on the red side there, and the aviators are out. Pinsker always here for a bit of fun, and he's on for a top 10 potentially at this point in time, Peter. He's racing out there with Gio Cortese.
Yeah, we always get a good giggle from our man James Pinsker as well. Really, but and also, you know, it looks like he's maybe not taking this seriously. I can assure you he is. You know, his performances show that as well. And James has also been one of the kind of early adopters and real, I don't know how you say, ambassadors for this Dallara IRL1, and telling the world and telling the sim racing community about how much fun it is to drive.
I tell you what, we've got a move going on for third place right now, and it's Johan Harth and Michele Costantini at the moment. They've just changed positions as we focus. There's the move. Now, this is really crucial because they've been working hard to get themselves there. The pace from those two Apex cars over the last couple of laps have been about half a second a lap quicker than Michele Costantini. And that really, Kenneth, has been huge. And that's why Harth is now up into third position. They want to lead the line because on that last lap, they were nearly 0.8 of a second quicker than the race leader.
And if you get that momentum, Jake, you just want to snowball it until it's a giant, almost sort of a snow boulder. You want to keep it going until the very end. And if you can chop this lead down before the second stint of green flag pit stops, then all power to you. That's going to mean a lot to catch up to Van Lozenord and Ugolotti, because it feels like everybody third on back has been sort of behind the 8 ball out of the top two. So it's been very tough for these guys, and if they can try and cram the lead in for the final stint, maybe make an alternate call, they could be in the right place to potentially win this race. But also, Jake, if we touch on James Pinsker's paint scheme, that's wishing Przemysław Lemonek a happy birthday. So happy birthday to Przemysław today.
Absolutely, and the birthday boy doing a pretty good job right now in 6th position. But let's take a look back then and see how that pass was all constructed. And it was all down to a slow down penalty and how you need to serve it. So going through, they can see just pushing a little bit there too much. And as they go through, it's going to be a case of, well, I've got to take the time away somewhere. And why not just construct a pass, get everyone into position, and then just let that go. As painless as it is, the iRacing slowdown system is there, and all three of them have actually just come in at the same time. They're making their second stop, lap 26 here, Peter.
Okay, so all of the SDK Apex cars in then. Johan Harth, Michele Costantini in the middle there, and championship leader Peter Berryman. Now, will that undercut work for them? Here are your two leaders, Van Lozenord and Ugolotti. Now, will this hurt them? It will do initially, but as we come into the critical last 2 or 3 laps of the race, this could prove critical for Van Lozenord and Ugolotti, because as we see, the tyres are really getting ripped to pieces here at Suzuka.
Oh, they absolutely are. And that's going to be key. There is Van Lozenord. There is Ugolotti. The gap just about 0.2 of a second. Power on the exit. A little wiggle there from Ugolotti's TGQ engineering car. That's going to cost him all the way through 200 right and in towards the spoon curve. A very, very difficult corner, underratedly so. You take the first part quick and then you've got to slow it down. It's off camber all the way through this section before you dip and rise up to the bridge where the figure 8 comes in. And it's one of the big keys of this track, Kenneth, that you don't really notice the fact that this is a figure 8 when you go through 130R.
You definitely don't. On the racetrack, it looks a lot different than from the spectator stands. But yes, indeed, it is a figure 8 circuit, one of really the only figure 8 circuits in the entire world. So it's a very unique part of this famous Japanese circuit, as the leaders will stay out one more time before to hit pit road. But that's another thing that these drivers just have to deal with, is just sort of the pace that you have to carry here. That first section is very critical for maintaining momentum and then building it for the long sectors in that second half before the hairpin and before the Casio Triangle near the end. So there's so many factors that go into being fast at this track, and that's why setups have to be so important, but along with just straight driver precision.
They absolutely do. And the longer that these two at the front stay out, the more likely it is that that group, which was about 4 seconds back when they came in and made their stop, are going to bring themselves into play and try and leapfrog them when it comes to strategy. From Mantova in Italy, Matteo Ugolotti very much getting nice and neat behind. There, Martin van Loosnord going through the hairpin and making that drive again through 200 right. Costantini has the fastest lap, and at this point, Peter, there's also that to try and contend with right now. How late do you leave it in terms of the stop, and are you going to have to send a driver in for a third time today to go and make things happen? So that's going to be something very interesting. Who wants fastest lap?
Well, that is certainly an opportunity for those who are kind of out of the points or down the order anyway. They might come in and throw a soft tyre at it to get that fastest lap. So the likelihood of it going to one of our championship protagonists is actually less. Oh, that's fascinating. Matteo Ugolotti makes a very late call to go to pit road, and Van Loosnord carries on. Now, the lap times are now approaching the 129s, which are about a second off the optimum pace. So, whoa, Van Loosnord is really rolling the dice here.
Certainly is, and here's another thing that's quite key about this decision, why the tyres are going off here maybe, Kenneth. That track has gained 3 degrees of temperature as this race has gone on. Almost everybody here in the mid-pack's diving in. Cortese, Pinsker, Labigra, Kiter, they're all in. That's going to release Johan Harth then the opportunity to go through, and Harth has actually broken away from Costantini and Berryman. That's really, really crucial at this point in time. They can see the temperatures, the weather conditions on screen, partly cloudy, and I'd say fairly gusty here today, Kenneth, at this point in time.
Yeah, it is, and with these high downforce cars, you don't want to see wind anywhere. Unless it's carrying you from a tailwind, you don't want to see it. But you are right, the track has grown in temperature. It was 76 degrees when we started just before qualifying and the warm-up kicked off, and now it's up to an 80-degree track temperature as time has moved forward here in this sim. So it is getting tougher now, based with the tire wear. The car is getting very loose on exit, on entry, everywhere. The car is getting in a way to step out, and then coupled with that heat on track, it only makes the cars slicker on end. Let's watch here, though, if Martin van Loosnord will come down pit road. The answer is yes. Leader down with 12 to go.
What's crucial is that Ugolotti got out ahead of Johan Harth. So it's Van Loosnord versus Ugolotti. There's been one issue this season for Van Loosnord coming onto the lane. That happened at Interlagos. That really cost him a lot of points in the championship. He worked hard to try and get those back. But he can see both what is going to be Costantini and Berryman now. And Costantini losing the place to Peter Berryman over more drivers then in the pits, and they will be the other two of Toth in the wannabe sim racing car and Lemonek's very nice Predator gaming machine. Van Loosnord is out of the pits now and getting up to speed. There is Matteo Ugolotti. They're going to be almost side by side through turn number 1. Van Loosnord regains the lead, but once again he's going to have to be patient on the front because Ugolotti can just sit in behind, dig his claws in deep, and just wait for a chance to try and attack for the victory here today as we look from behind going to the front, Peter.
And what is critical about that pit cycle is that the two leaders, Martin van Loosnord and Matteo Ugolotti, have lost about 2.5 seconds through that process of the pit stops. However, not all bad for Van Loosnord and Ugolotti, because particularly Van Loosnord, they've rolled the dice, they've taken the gamble, but that will pay off in that the last 2 or 3 laps they will have much fresher tyres than Harth, Berryman, Costantini, etc. Excuse me. That is the gamble they've taken. It appears to have paid off for now, but Johan Harth, at least he's got that carrot now, and he's got to really push in these next few laps while the tyres are still coming up to temp and pressure on Van Loosnord's car particularly.
You can definitely say the top 5 are not guaranteed, and you could be a part of this as well. For more information on schedules, standings, and how to become a driver in the series, log on to iRacing.com/IRGP today and get yourself in the picture. Understand the car, understand the difficulties, and make sure that you become a sim racer with iRacing as well. But Van Loosnord in control. It's about 2 seconds here at this point in time. The gap back to Johan Harth, that will be the concern out there, Kenneth, between now and the end. How good is Harth's time? He did a 27.9 on that last time by. Ugolotti is the great understanding of that. 0.6 of a second slower, stuck behind Van Loozenhoorn, who's just getting up to speed.
And Van Loozenhoorn is going to have a little bit to get into the rhythm. But now, I think for Van Loozenhoorn, he just has to be concerned about what Ugolotti does. Because, of course, Ugolotti's not running for the championship, but he is running for the win. He's running for points. So if Harth tries to go around him, best believe that Ugolotti is probably not going to make things easy for that Apex Racing car at all. He's going to try to race him as hard as possible. But then, for Harth, if he can be able to get by, now what does Van Loozenhoorn do in terms of watching that rearview mirror? Does he keep himself with his head down? Does he stay calm? Or does he continue to look at Harth and see how much time he's gaining? Because Harth is starting to reel in, and in the final 10 laps, you do not want to have a car on your rear bumper in a section that has a lot of draft heavy in it.
And Peter, you know, we have to say it, last time out they came together, Van Loozenhoorn and Harth. So that's going to be interesting. But look at the times as they go forward as we take that fantastic run. Here we go. Driver's eyes perspective for Johan Harth. 27.9 his best. And he knows that he's got to keep himself in range once again. And as he charges, as he tries to get what he wants, 27.9, Van Loozenhoorn's responded 0.2 of a second quicker that last time by from Johan Harth. He's got to keep him at bay.
Yeah, that's a very impressive lap time from Martin Van Loozenhoorn as well, because the tyres will be right in their optimum at the moment for Johan Harth as well. So for Van Loozenhoorn to add 0.2 of a second to that advantage at this stage, very, very important, because Harth's tyres will not last into those last 2 laps or so, whereas Van Loozenhoorn's likely will, or certainly will last better. That's the key to this race. So at the moment, it's in Van Loozenhoorn's hands. But what can Peter Berriman do? I mean, if he could pull a podium out of this, wow, that would be such a good recovery after a difficult qualifying.
Yeah, certainly has. Johan Harth there making a little bit of a mistake. That's why he's dropped the time a little bit in comparison. But there are questions now, Kenneth, on what Ugolotti's trying to do here. He was struggling a little bit through Spoon. Second consecutive lap, he struggled there. There might even be a scenario where he's just trying to fuel save. Maybe he's really tried to bleed that tank dry over that middle stint.
There probably is that possibility for Matteo Ugolotti. As you take a look at the live points on the right side, as so far it's a 1-point spread between Van Loozenhoorn and Peter Berriman. That is remarkably close. But for Ugolotti, again, playing the spoiler, I don't think he wants to really push it now. Maybe he's just saving for later because he is a little bit slower. But again, much like Peter mentioned at the top of the show, this track is a tire eater. It's tough. It has a lot of load on those hard sidewalls even. So this driver right here, Ugolotti, probably is looking to just save a little bit and then try to attack. He did it in the opening run, so there may be not a surprise that he tries to do it again, hence the lack of pace right now.
Yeah, and this is also something that we look at as well, Peter, in terms of how cars run behind other cars. And the key is, if you're within 2 or 3 of a second, it is a direct blast, but you can sort of get away with it because you're tucked up underneath. At 5, 6 of a second, you're really feeling it through the corners, the dirty air, and that's why you have that ability sometimes just to fall back a little bit further, and that's what Ugolotti's also having to deal with right now.
Yeah, Ugolotti is really under the cosh right now, and he's got to keep an eye on the gap back to Johan Harth. I mean, what can we say about the feisty Frenchman in the number 90? Had to serve his second rear of the grid start of the season for transgressions in a previous race, and once again, he's just basically shrugged it off and got himself up onto the podium. And if he could finish in the position, if it finished where it is right now, Johan Harth is still in an outside chance of this championship. Now, I think that would have been a difficult one to predict at the start of this race. So really impressive from Johan Harth.
Yeah.
And what that does is effectively set up a straight fight next week at the Hungaroring. I'm rubbing my hands already.
Absolutely, I am as well, as we see him right now on screen. We did have a little look there at the battle 6th, 7th and 8th with Toth, Lemonek and Mandenaar, and there they are right now. Przemysław Lemonek on his birthday, no less, in the number 11 car, trying to get as much as he can out of it. He started 7th, he's in 7th right now, and if he can get himself up to P6, that'll be a miniature win here in terms of this race. And you know, it's the small things in life as well, Kenneth, that you go through. It's not to like say that, you know, this hasn't been a lot of effort. It's been an incredible amount of effort, but to just get the first thing rolling, and it's the same for every race that you go on in iRacing, you beat your grid stall, so if you go from 7th to 6th, that is a small win.
It is a small win. Any little bit of progress is progress. It's a fall upwards, it's not a fall downwards. So it's not something negative to really dwell on. Yes, it's not the best, but it is somewhat of something. So for Lemonek and all the guys, especially near that part of the latter half of the top 10, that's something you're going to want to look forward to. And there is Peter Berryman right there sitting in 4th. Now what he has to do is focus on more gain here, because he's behind his teammate Hart, in between himself and Michele Costantini. And if Berryman can hold on to that 1 point spread or even gain some, then Jake, we're going to have a fantastic battle of the ages for this inaugural championship at the Hungaroring circuit next week.
Exactly, and that is 7 p.m. GMT. November 18th is the time and place. Make sure you're there for it, because it's going to, as things stand, go all the way down to the wire at the Hungaroring. So make sure that you are around for that one. As you can see here, these drivers pushing through, giving as much as they possibly can as they go through this section of road. But Peter, now is the time. You've got to focus. 6 laps to go, and this track can bite at any point in time, at any corner in time.
That's very true, and in a car with a lot less horsepower than this Dallara IR01 is a monster. These drivers are the very best in the world at what they do in the virtual world, and we cannot, well, that's the great thing about iRacing. You can get yourself a membership, sign on, and experience this car. It has to be seen to be believed, to be quite honest. I've had a go myself, and it just increases the respect for these guys so much more than it already was. 900 horsepower, nearly 20,000 RPM, huge speed, huge downforce, and you throw in Suzuka into that mix. There's a lot for the drivers to contend with.
Oh, here we go for the lead. Here comes Ugolotti searching for the inside. He thought better of it. Now, that's so interesting. It was a 28.9 that last time by from Van Lozenoord. How much is he having to fuel save, Kenneth?
He's going to have to save a little bit. He went over the radio a couple laps ago and said, I have to fuel save a wee bit. But just now he said, I think I have enough. So he may have saved it all the way to the end for the last 5 laps. It's still a big question mark, but according to their team, he's got it under control. But now he's got a charging Matteo Ugolotti wanting to switch his way +1 to the race lead in the final laps, and he's got the opportunity to do it. He's in the draft here, Jake.
Certainly is, and Peter, we've been looking at this all race long. Ugolotti's made no attempt to the move. That was the first sign that he wants to make something happen. But if he's getting an understanding of Van Lozenoord needs to save, you hold him out there a bit longer. You hold him out in the wind. You force him to make that life a little bit more difficult. Gap behind, though, to Hearth again creeps down under 2 seconds. And what's more interesting now is that the gap is about 1.2 between Hearth and Berryman.
That's right, yeah. Now, Ugolotti has played this one so smart. He didn't fight with Van Lozenoord early on. He sat behind the whole way, and that definitely will have helped his fuel consumption. They were both in the pit box, Van Lozenoord and Ugolotti, the last time round, for exactly the same amount of time, 6.7 seconds. That means that they'll take on the same amount of fuel, but you would think that given that Ugolotti was behind Van Lozenoord for the whole of the stint, he would have come into pit lane for the first stop with more fuel in the tank. Therefore, he's got less fuel concern than Van Lozenoord does. But can I just say, I'm very happy that my Scottish words are rubbing off on our own Kenneth Bueno. He needs to save a wee bit of fuel. You always need to save a wee bit of fuel. That's good for the budget.
Absolutely it is, and now you're starting to see it here that they are all running themselves at the very, very limits right now. Ugolotti, who has not got a win all season. Martin Van Lozenoord, who's got 5 of them and is looking to take half of the victories this season, plus now to go to 6. He knows what he's got to do. He knows what he has to be like, and he's just got to stay calm in this position. He's led many races before, but he hasn't necessarily fought Ugolotti for the race victory all over there. The AstroTurf on the outside of Degner too. So much torque in the tyres, he's able to snap that car, Kenneth, back to straight.
And that's just straight driving ability out of these guys. And as I was talking about early in the race, these hard tires are going to start to fall off. Yes, there's only 4 laps to go. But these guys have put some laps, have put some loads on these hard sidewall tires. So they're going to start to fall off. And what that means is the car is going to get hard to drive. And that's all on now for Van Lozenoord, for Ugolotti, for Hearth, for everybody in the field to handle that the best way they can. And And now the question is, how far do they slow in comparison to everybody else in the final 3? They'll head for the Casio triangle. Ugolotti with a big dive, and as you ride on board, he's got striking distance, but it's going to grow once again.
It certainly is going to grow once again. And again, patience needed. 3 laps to go here at Suzuka. Does he angle for a move into one now? Again, he lifts off of it and waits for his chance. So wasn't quite close enough here to make it happen. And there are shades of Kimi Räikkönen and Giancarlo Fisichella, Peter, all about this.
Yeah, interestingly, these two leaders, they're pushing one another on because they were 0.7 of a second quicker than Johan Hart last time by and 0.4 of a second quicker than Peter Berryman. And that is the crossover we were talking about on the tyres. The Apex cars of Hart, Berryman, Costantini, their tyres are shot, whereas Van Loozenhoorn and Ugolotti have just got a little bit left. But my word, that was a huge moment there for Van Loozenhoorn on the last lap, coming out of the second Degner. Very, very well held indeed. But we did see, riding on board there with Ugolotti, just how much of a lift and coast Van Loozenhoorn had to do, Scott Dixon style, trying to maintain the lap speed but also save the fuel. That is a horrible situation to be in.
It absolutely is. We do need to note there has been a pass here for 6th position. You can see Przemysław Lemonek ahead of David Toth. That one going into turn number 1. And so Lemonek felt that his fuel saving is okay. He can go out there, be aggressive from now to the end. But David Toth, give him some credit in this championship, Kenneth. He's up there well inside the top 10 and has been proving time and again that he is one of the most consistent race finishers in this championship. He is 6th behind the 4 cars of Apex and SDK and Martin Van Loozenhoorn.
And what makes it more interesting, Jake, just like Ugolotti's story, is that these guys only field 1 car in this series. Wannabe Sim Racing Team has that single car in David Toth as he gets passed by Valentin Mandernach for 8th, or for 7th now, as Toth is going to move back to 8th. But it's a single car operation for those guys, and to put up the amount of finishes that they have over the course of the season and to secure themselves a spot into next year's competition, that definitely means a lot in his chase for a potential Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship in the future. And Toth, remember last week, he was a podium finisher in the top 3 to Hungarian.
He certainly was, and he proved just how much worth that he was able to do. His first podium of the season, and he has a lot on the horizon for him if he can continue on this vein of form, and he is proving that he is a great driver. So too Mandernach, he's one for the future, and Przemysław Lemonek has done a very good job on his birthday, then in position number 6 overall. But we are a lap at a bit. Johan Hart in trouble. He's being caught by Peter Berryman here, and this might just be a pass that puts Berryman back into the lead of the championship. It's 1 point to MVL at this point in time. He'll go around the outside. It'll be little resistance from Johan Hart into 131. Make that 2 points championship lead. Peter Berryman, Peter, as we go on to the last lap. Van Loozenhoorn, I think, has just broken Ugolotti's spirit.
And that breaks Johan Hart's spirit as well, because that move puts Johan Hart out of contention for the championship. That means he will not have an opportunity to get the crown in the Hungaroring in a week's time. So it will be, if things finish as they are, will be a straight fight between Martin Van Loozenhoorn and Peter Berryman. What a prospect. But Martin Van Loozenhoorn, this has been another classic performance from the Dutchman. This would be a 6th win of the season out of 9 races. Extraordinary.
What's extraordinary as well is he took half a second on that lap. We look back down the field. Valentin Mandernach not done with David Toth, moving through the 2 Degner corners and making that charge then up towards the middle sector of the lap. Lemonek has just been breaking away then from Valentin, the Frenchman, and there's not much more that car 8 can do against car 46 in that battle. But for Martin Van Loozenhoorn, he knew that this was a must-win race. He had to be perfect. Berryman had to slip up. Berryman didn't qualify the car well. That meant he had no fight with him at this point in time. He knows now that he'll be 2 points back going into the final round of the championship as he goes through the Casio Triangle. In the words of Joe Buck, we will see you on Thursday. Martin Van Loozenhoorn, 6th of the season, puts him right in contention again. Ugolotti 2nd. Berryman holds barely the championship lead.
Jake, it's a total of 2 points for Hungaroring next week. Martin van Loosenhoorn did all that he could. He dominated this race. There is nothing you can discredit out of that machine. It was just all based on where Berryman finished. And now next week we will have a show on our hands because those 2 points, those guys are going to go all out for it. Van Loosenhoorn with his wins and his dominance, and Berryman all in his position, his consistency. Watch this battle here. There's James Pinsker for a pass for almost 10th on Cortese. He's going to finish 11th. Everybody finishing. But as for the leaders, they're getting set for next week already.
And we've still got battles all the way to the end as they're fighting for the final 2 points in the championship as well. But what an incredible battleground that we have seen today. It has been a really important fight out there, but for the 6th time this season, it is Martin van Loosenhoorn who has got it done. His margin of victory has been sensational. It was 2.3 in the end over Matteo Ugolotti, with Peter Berryman coming home in third. Didn't have the best qualifying today and did so well to bring himself back. Johan Harth would take fourth, Michele Costantini fifth, and on his birthday, Przemysław Lemonek in 6th position. And it looks like a penalty late for Ben Fuller for going over the incident limit. Drops him down to 13th position late. So that will promote Gio Cortese and James J. Pinsker up. Marquez was able to beat out Omar Bahar for the final 2 and 1 points there in that race, with the likes of Jose Soria, Tamas Simon, Jarl Tyrant, Andreas Henkel, and Alejandro Del Campo. Your retirees then from this 9th round of 10 of the championship. We said it was going to be an interesting battle. We said, Kenneth, that it was going to be right there at the highest pinnacle. You needed to be at your level best, and you've just found a driver who was at his level best for the 6th time this season.
Well, it's hard to really say that Martin van Loosenhoorn is not a contender for the championship, as we'll bring him into the broadcast booth. And Martin, we called you Money, Martin van Loosenhoorn, off the case of our friend Jake Sperry in the booth, but can we call you the 6 God now? 6 wins on the season with just a 2-point spread between yourself and Peter Berryman in the championship. Walk us through just how big this win is for you here from Suzuka based on what happened last week.
Yeah, you can call me whatever you want, man. I think it's kind of creative. I like it. Yeah, tough race. Had to battle hard in the beginning, and yeah, kind of worked out. So very happy with the result.
The result, of course, first out of all the people in the field, but I mean, of course, with championship implications, this race meant a lot based on Red Bull Ring, where you fell out of the championship lead. You were kind of on the hunt back. And in this race, you led a lot of it, a majority through the strategy. Did that go into your mind, this championship battle, the whole way through, or you were just solely focused head down to the strategy and making sure that you can do as much as you can to win this race here today?
Yeah, well, I knew as the track heats up, you want to have fresh tires in the end. And with a lighter car, due to the strategy, I just had a quick car in the end. I just had to make sure that I came out in front of the Apex guys and Matteo. That was a close one, though. So I could have gone 1 lap longer, but the tires were just gone, and so I had to call it and go into the pits a lap earlier. But it all came down to the strategy for me, and yeah, I mean, track position is quite key on this track, but overtaking is also, yeah, it's a good possibility to overtake here. It's not easy, but there are some great places. So track position was key also.
We saw a glimpse of that as well, the overtaking on the opening laps to leader Michele Costantini. I think that was a sight to see. But now Hungaroring. Next week, 2 points. Yourself, Peter Berryman, for the Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship. What's the approach here with the 6 wins? What's the kind of mindset that you're going to carry into that race? And what are you going to try to do to secure yourself as a title holder this year?
Well, obviously, mindset's full focus for this last one. Even though it's been a long season, including the pre-quali. So yeah, full focus. Work as hard as possible on the set to make it work properly throughout the stint. Make it quick, and yeah, just head down and never give up until the very last lap.
All set and focused for the championship race in 1 week time. Martin, want to give you a huge congratulations on your 6th win in this 2021 campaign, and we wish you the best of luck and all the focus for next week's Hungaroring finale. And of course, that's going to be a lot of fun, so we hope to see you there.
Thanks, mate. See you next week.
That's money six god. I guess Martin van Loosenoord for the win here today from the virtual Suzuka circuit, and 6 wins. That is definitely something to go about, especially as the driver leading all of it throughout this season. I believe we're going to have a chance to get into P2. The driver who comes home in second, the Italian for TQ Engineering. It's Matteo Ugolotti. And Matteo, I think over the course of the season, you've been sort of a spoiler in this championship fight. You weren't a part of a big team. You're kind of a single car operation, but consistency has carried you through, especially at its pinnacle here today. How does it feel for this podium, especially given the sort of the consistency you've worked through and how much this means for you in the final races of the season to make a statement?
Thank you guys for all the good words. It was, I'm really impressed, to be honest, already from the quali, but I was in P3 and didn't expect it. Also because these guys are extremely quick, and congrats also to Michele for the pole position. And I mean, I still can't believe it to made up the P2 because yeah, I mean, I'm working with a lot of people that are helping me a lot, and I'm really gonna say thank you to them because it was all by yours help. But yeah, the next race will be. I hope that it will be similar to this because we are working really hard, and I think we deserve it because we never got much luck in the past race, but this week was everything was perfect.
The hard work has paid off today from the Suzuka circuit, no doubt about that. But Matteo, that final stint, I think you and Martin van Loosenoord, even before that last pit stop, you guys were kind of working together in a bit, still pushing away from the rest of the field. So in that final segment, how much difficult did it get for you to try to get past Martin van Loosenoord, or what were your thoughts then in that last segment?
Yeah, for the first 13 laps of the race, it was not my intention to fight Martin because it didn't pay off to fight. We are just focused on breaking the draft to guarantee my P2. And yeah, in the last stint he was flying, so I was not able to catch him. But yeah, he made an incredible race, and I'm happy for him.
We're able to walk away with a P2 effort here, a podium finish in the Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship and the penultimate round. Matteo, congratulations on this remarkable finish for you and the TQ Engineering team, and we wish you the best of luck in the finale at Hungary next week.
Thanks, man.
And Matteo Ugolotti for TQ Engineering, the driver who comes home in P2. We'll take a moment to talk to the final driver out of our podium here today, Peter Berryman, who will walk into next week's race as the championship leader by a total of 2 points. Peter, this race qualifying, probably not the greatest for you, but it was a walk up through there. It's a third place finish here today. What are your thoughts after this sort of defending race in terms of fighting Martin van Loosenoord for the championship hold?
Yeah, I mean, taking the result as it is, I think, yeah, I can't be too upset. Messed up in qualifying, off track my second lap, so that stuck me, I think it was P9 in the pack instead of up at the front. And so that was on me. From there, it was pretty much just damage limitation, trying to recover as much as I could. Yeah, pretty interesting race, After Red Bull Ring, the RHE guys had a good whinge and cried about what went on there. Saying, that it's not racing and things like that. They then show up today and do the exact same thing that we did, if not worse. So I guess it just shows their character. We haven't said a word about anything that's went on all season, raced fair, and then, they show up and do things like that. So in terms of my race, it was pretty much in the bin after the first stint, around the first stops. Obviously, they started backing us up and we lost so much time to the lead. So a few good strategy calls. We managed to come through the pack then, and from there it was pretty much just bringing it home. We tried to put a bit of pressure on the cars at the front towards the end there. We had very, very good pace, but yeah, we just had, given the strategy we taken, we had too much fuel at the end to really do anything. So yeah, championship league into the last round. Can't be too upset with how the day started. So yeah, take it for what it is.
And also got to mention that pivotal pass on teammate Johan Hart to keep that 2-point lead over Martin van Loozenhoort for next week. So and now next Thursday, it's all on the line for the championship. It's you, it's Martin van Loozenhoort for you to try to get this inaugural Dallara IR01 Pro Championship. What is the mindset? What's the approach? How are you going to try to ensure that when you finish that race at Hungaroring next week, you will be titled a Force Dynamics Dallara iRacing Grand Prix champion?
In terms of prep and how we approach it, I guess the same as every other race. We'll maybe have to look at things a little bit differently with how things went today. There's obviously a lot of variables that can go into these, but the goal is just to beat Martin. Simple as that. Not really too much to it.
I know a 2-point gap isn't the greatest, but it's something, and I figure you're going to make the most out of that coming in next week. Peter, I want to give you a congratulations on this 3rd place finish. Want to wish you the best of luck for the championship race next week. And of course, want to give a congratulations to Team Apex on the new building that they announced today as well.
Yeah, thanks very much. Super exciting going forward for myself and the guys. So yeah, thanks very much.
Well, Jake, that's your top 3 finishers. Money, Martin van Loozenhoort, the winner. Ugo Lotti with a podium. Peter Berryman with a 2-point hold on the championship for the final race next week. That's exciting.
That certainly is exciting. 2 single championship points. It can only be Berryman or van Loozenhoort. It's very simple. Whoever finishes first wins the championship. If points stack down a little bit further, they're out of position, then Berryman has a significant advantage in that regard. Johan Hart is in 3rd position, but 27 points. He is out of the title picture by 1 championship point. It's 2 drivers, it's 1 race, and it's the Hungaroring, which is 1 week from today. It's a huge battleground. The driver who's been winning all season long has had 2 bad races and has now got himself back into title contention. The driver who has been gritty and determined, who has put himself in the right position to get himself there. Peter, I'm going to bring you into the conversation very quickly. How do you think this is going to go down? This is a very technical final race of the championship.
Well, we heard Peter Berryman, didn't we? It's pretty tough between the 2 teams at the moment, RHG and the Apex Racing team. It's a very simple, no-holds-barred fight at a circuit that's very familiar to the drivers from watching on television, but it's a pretty new circuit to the iRacing simulator, so there's a lot of work to do in the next 7 days, and you can be sure that both Apex and RHG will be putting in the mileage in the next 7 days, and I, for one, cannot wait to see who comes out on top between 2 very tough competitors.
And Kenneth, you know, we heard it as well from the finish there of that and through the interviews, how Peter Berryman got very chirpy there going in towards that final stage. November 18th, does it all come to a head, or are we going to see this become one of the races for the ages in iRacing sim racing history?
I don't doubt for a moment, Jake, that this race is going to go down to the very end. I mean, you've got 2 of the best drivers in the series. They've made their statements. They've put in all the work. So now it's all about this final race, and if they can put on performances much like they've been doing all season long, it's head-to-head. Everybody else, you can forget about them for the championship for now. It's all the spotlight on Berryman and van Loozenhoort, a championship that we'll be waiting to see, and maybe some bragging rights as well. You can call yourself an inaugural champion, but you got to put in the work first next week.
Absolutely. There is the time, there is the place, and there also is the track. Join us for that. But from everybody who has been sorting it out today, who has been getting themselves into the right position, it's been a pleasure to bring yourself into the party and the conversation. Martin van Loozenhoort may have won this skirmish, but it's all about the final battle. There will be 1 winner, there will be 1 loser. No ifs, no buts, no ands. It's plain and it's simple. 2 points, 1 race, and iRacing holds the key here today and for 1 week from now. Join us for the Hungaroring 1 week from today. That is where the final destination will be circled.